Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today we are here to record something very different from the usual. I'm here with Graham and we are going to record our first episode of the podcast. And it's going to be the Cybersecurity Web podcast. And I'm very honored to have Graham here. And the first thing that I would like to ask you is to just introduce yourself, let people know who you are, what you do, those kind of things.
Sure. So first of all, super happy to be here.
My pleasure,
Honored to
man.
be the first guest. But yeah, a little bit about me. I kind of started doing some offensive security type things about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and since then I just kind of fell down the rabbit hole of certifications and blogging and cybersecurity, Twitter. So just lots of time spent doing all that fun stuff. But yeah, super happy to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Let's have just a chill conversation about cybersecurity, about things that are exciting for us, and we can start just by talking a little bit about why did we decide and why the hell did we choose to follow this path of cybersecurity? What excites you about cybersecurity? Is that something that you have thought about, or you don't even think
Yeah,
about it? You just love it.
a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think I kind of started out just in middle school. I was playing a bunch of video games, and I kind of had to figure out how to set up a server so me and my friends could play together. And then from there, I wanted to figure out how do I give people different permissions on my server, which had me modifying, configuration files and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got into, I really wanted to be a game developer for a few years.
Wow.
And so I started doing like some different coding projects and then realized I didn't like working on the same project for, 2 years straight. Um, and then from there, I just kind of went to college for computer science. And then
Okay.
after 2 years of that, I switched over to cybersecurity and kind of found, a lot of people in the community, um, started interacting with people on Twitter, started getting some certifications. And yeah, now here I am.
Yeah, so I feel like you didn't even get lost into the sea or the ocean that cybersecurity is. In my personal experience, I was a little bit lost at the beginning because I just didn't
Hmm.
know where to start. I was already working as a quality assurance automation guy, and as you were saying, I got very bored to work on the same project for too much time. And cybersecurity is perfect for that because we change if you're working as a consultant, you're probably changing projects every month, so
Right.
it's very dynamic, right? But how did you know, like, what degree to choose, what certifications to choose? Did you ask the community on Twitter? I know that the community is very active and likes to give advice on that.
Um, yeah, I think for me, it was kind of that was one of the things I didn't really know what to do. I
Okay.
kind of just stumbled around, and there was a lot of people saying, "Hey, you should take this certification. You should learn this. You should do this."
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that like really confused me. You had all these people saying I should do all these different things. Um, but I think what really helped me is just kind of starting somewhere is
Yeah.
better than not starting at all.
For sure.
So I basically saw like people were saying to get, some entry level CompTIA certifications,
Hmm.
because at the very least, those will give you like a good foundational knowledge,
Yeah.
rather than rushing straight into something more advanced. So, yeah, I kind of started with the basics, and I think that's a really good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Um, and just kind of not being afraid to start something, even if you don't think it's going to be um, the most like beneficial thing for you to work on at that moment. It's better to start on something than get caught up in the whirlwind of, trying to pick something to work on.
Yeah, it's very easy to get lost, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we can talk about certifications more down the line, but for now, I think it would be interesting to talk a little bit about the first challenges we faced when we started on this journey. I don't know if I can like say your age if if you want me
Yeah, go for
to
it.
keep that as a secret. But yeah, we
No,
are
no, go for it.
both of us are very young fellas, right? I'm 25, you're 20, 22? Yeah,
Yep.
22. And so we are barely getting started. I think this is an endless journey, in my opinion. and we are like scratching the surface of the cybersecurity ocean. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what were some of the first struggles you faced when it comes to, okay, so cybersecurity is huge. It's impossible to be an expert at everything. So how did you decide to focus more, let's say, pen testing or red teaming or the offensive side? What were the things that were behind those decisions? You know what I mean? So what inspired you to go to that route, and what were other challenges you might have faced at the time?
Sure. So I think for me, it wasn't necessarily that I, saw the whole cybersecurity landscape
Okay.
and thought, oh, I want to do pen testing. It
Okay.
was more of I saw pen testing and I was like, oh,
Right.
that looks like fun.
All right.
Let me do that. And then after I got into that kind of job role, I kind of realized that there was other things to security besides breaking things. There was
Yeah.
actually people that needed to like defend the systems I was breaking into.
That's so
Um,
funny.
so yeah, that kind of like opened my eyes, like, oh, there's other things you can do besides, pen testing.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that really confused me was there's especially on Twitter, there's a lot of people who talk about you know, the offensive side of things. So you
Yeah.
kind of get um, a different view of how the actual world works if you're just looking at it through Twitter.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was like, oh, okay, so the only thing that's important is like finding 0 days and stuff like that. When
Yeah.
in reality, it's more of keep your systems up to date. Have an inventory of your hardware, do all like the fundamentals,
For
and then
sure.
you don't have to worry about the next Log4j or the next SolarWinds or whatever the new hot Twitter trend is.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because my experience was exactly the same. So I was already in the mindset of breaking things. When you're working on quality assurance, you're trying to find some bugs or trying to find some like things that applications shouldn't be doing or trying to fuzz some stuff. And when I found out that you could be doing that, but with the security mindset, that's what got to me. And when I discovered pen testing, I didn't even have a Twitter at the time, and I it was like the same experience. When I found pen testing, I started to discovering like the other stuff that cybersecurity has to offer, and that's where I got a little bit lost because I was like, oh, there's so much stuff to learn. But I
Right.
decided to go to that route just because of that, because I thought that that would be a lot of fun. And that would require me to learn pretty much every day. Is that something that excites you? That tomorrow you can just go through something that you never faced before and you have to like dig into it and discover new things? Is that something that gets you excited to work every day on this field?
Yeah, I
That's an
think so.
obvious question, right? I'm sorry.
No, it's one of those things where it's like some people thrive in an environment where you're kind of learning new things, and some people just want to do what they're good at.
That's true.
Which there's pros and cons to each.
Yeah.
But I get really bored really easily. Like even if I'm having fun, working, or even if it's like a video game, if it doesn't keep my interest, I'll just move on to something else.
Yeah.
But I think security is a good place where you can kind of work on so many different things that it keeps me interested for long enough to actually do something productive,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Absolutely. So, what would be some challenges that you're facing like today? What would you say that, okay, so now I'm trying to get through this, and it could be everything like a certification, a degree, something that you're trying to be more proficient at your work, at your personal life. It could even be outside of cybersecurity. We can talk about everything here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. I think the biggest thing for me right now is just like not having enough time to do the things that I want to work on. When I was in college, people kept saying, "Oh, when you get a real job, like you won't have time for anything." And I was like, I worked full time and then went to college at night, and so I was like, no, like I know like I can't wait to work a full job or like a real security job because then I'll have time to like work on side projects and not
Right.
be going to school at night. Um, but no, it's really weird because now, you come home from work and you don't necessarily want to spend another 8 hours, working for a certification, or writing a tool in Python, or reading through a textbook. So I think finding the time to work on the things that I want to work on, even though they might be fun, you might just want to not look at a screen for the rest of the day. Um, so yeah, I think that's the big thing is time. What about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, time as well. And I think that I don't know what's the situation there on America, but here in Portugal, we have a huge need of cybersecurity professionals.
Hmm.
And I think like there's also a need of people that are already working in cybersecurity, whether it is in pen testing or everything else, to get very good very quickly. Um,
Right.
you know what I mean? So
Yep.
let's say you just started out as a web penetration tester. That's normal. That's what happens most of the times, I think.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that you would start by hacking mobile applications or Active Directory, but that can happen as well. But I think that web applications are those things that most people start off with.
Hmm.
And I feel like whenever you start and you start as a junior pen tester, you get your first opportunity. There's like an urgency to just okay, so but now you have to learn mobile, and now you have to learn internal
Right.
auditing, you have to learn Active Directory, and now you have to learn like I don't know, you see what I mean? So there's like an urgency for
Right.
people to grow and learn very quickly because the field is expanding. Things are just getting updated, and we are getting new vulnerabilities pretty much every month. And I feel like we don't have enough people here, so it's urgent to have like senior professionals to make sure they can like pass through the knowledge through junior ones. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle because clients have needs. We have been facing a lot of cyber attacks here in a lot of big companies here in Portugal. Um, so it has been a bit of a challenge because you after work you also want to do your certifications, you also want to spend time with
Right.
your family. If you're studying for a degree, that's a whole another challenge. And let's say you're also creating content. Now that's another big one. I know
Yeah.
you
Each one could be a full-time job.
for sure, for sure, and they should, and I think they
Hmm.
should. If you're working as a full-time creator, hats off to you because that's a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of time, and we can talk a little bit about that further down the line because I know you have a fantastic blog, and we are
I
going,
appreciate it.
and we are going. I read, man. I read your blog. I love your
Yeah.
posts every Sunday.
Yep. I still need to post the one for today, but
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bothering you, my friend.
no, no, no. It's totally fine.
Okay. Well, I'm just checking my notes here, and it seems like the blog stuff is the next topic we should talk about.
How
How
convenient.
convenient. I'm getting good at this. In the first
Right.
episode.
Right. 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 Very quickly specializing.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, in cybersecurity, you have to learn very fast, so it
This
has
is
to.
true.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about the good, the bad, and the uglies. I think that having a blog should and must be a challenge. Like you have to create something new every week. You have to learn in order to have content to publish every week, and that must give you some pressure to keep posting or not. Are you totally free with it and you just go with the flow?
Yeah. So it kind of depends. So the good and bad, the ugly of the blog is I kind of first started it because, well, I didn't even mean to start it. I kind of like accidentally started it because I really wanted um, like a custom email address. So I wanted, me at grahamhelton.com
Yeah,
to like put on my resume.
yeah,
Um, so then I like, went down the rabbit hole of buying a domain. This is when I was still in college. I was like sending out resumes. So I like bought this domain and then I like set up an email. I was like, oh, like I don't have anything on my website. I need to put something on there.
yeah,
So I essentially just put like my resume on there, and then I was like, well, all these other really cool people are like putting things besides their resume. They're doing like research and they're doing, all these cool projects, and I'm not doing that. So
yeah,
um, I had basically been taking notes for how to do things like just for myself,
yeah,
and then I kind of came to the realization of, oh, if I just spend an extra 2 hours and like get rid of all the typos and make this a little more like informative, I can just post this
Yeah,
and this like might help someone. So
for sure.
I started doing that, and then I kind of moved into um, doing like reviews every time I'd go through a certification or whatever. I would kind of do like a little write up, and from there it just kind of morphed into my side projects became um, pretty involved.
Hmm.
And I started figuring out like, oh, like I can do this cool thing that you can't necessarily just Google for an answer for. Let me throw it up on my blog.
Yeah,
And then people were finding it useful. So having that kind of positive feedback loop of, you post something and someone's like, hey, this really helped me, start my blog or,
for sure.
you know, bypass AV or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just kind of started doing a weekly security roundup where it's basically just every day the things I work on, like whether it's a certification or just like a side project. Um, I would just kind of put those out there
Hmm.
and post those every Sunday. And it seems to have helped like a lot of people kind of figure out what they can do to get experience without necessarily working in a job in security.
Yeah,
Um, and also, it's a lot of fun.
for
Just kind
sure.
of forcing yourself to write down what you're working on.
It has a lot of upsides, right? You're giving back
Right.
to the community. You're learning along the way. I'm sorry, and but as far as the need to publish every week, does that like give you some anxiety sometimes? Do you feel like you are pressured to? Okay, so this week I have like a lot of things to do at my work. I'm going through certifications, and you just passed one certification this weekend, so congratulations on that. We are going to talk
Thank you.
about that as well. But yeah, so do you feel like that puts a little bit of unnecessary pressure on you, or you just like chill with it? I'm just going to make things on my own pace, and yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends. I think it gives me like enough, pressure
Okay.
to work on things.
Yeah.
So the thing I like about kind of doing the weekly like roundup of what I'm working on is I don't necessarily have to publish like a finished product every week. Like it
Okay.
doesn't, if you're posting a like research article every week, like that's insane
Yeah,
because
that's
that's a
different.
lot of
Yeah.
research that needs to go into it. But the nice thing about like a kind of weekly roundup is you get to just kind of show people what you're working on, and that kind of becomes like the end product.
Yeah.
And it's also really cool to go back and look, what was I doing 3 months ago, and like how much you've kind of grown. Um, but then it's also like there's been days where, I don't like maybe I take the day off work.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything. I just watch Netflix all day. I'll literally just write in the blog like did absolutely nothing
Okay.
and it was great.
That's
Um,
great, man. Good for you. That's being transparent and honest. That's great. That's very cool.
yeah,
Okay, man. I was just talking about that because I feel like when we start creating content, it could really get to us. Like, I have to post and I have to do something. And I for sure suffer with that a lot. And for
mhm,
the last couple of weeks, I haven't posting a whole lot of videos because, man, I'm just too busy. And I have another problem, which is I don't want to post like a terrible video. It's easy for me to
right,
just turn on this camera, and I have a microphone here as well, as you can see, and I can just talk nonsense about everything I'm doing, or I don't know, make a 5 minute video about any certification I did. I don't know. You see, it's very easy. It's very low effort, but then I think like, okay, if I'm doing this, I better do it like the best I can. And having a balance between that and trying to be like perfectionist and having everything the best it could be, then all of a sudden you end up just not posting anything because there's nothing that it's good
right.
enough to post. It's very hard, man. Sometimes I really would like to be able to just press record and post stuff. That would be really nice.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that that would be helpful for a lot of people because, a lot of people see like, the only videos you see are, very well produced, very like
Hmm.
informative. But honestly, like a lot of the videos I end up watching for the longest like amount of time are just videos where someone is going through a capture the flag and
Yeah.
you're kind of watching their like thought process.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
half the video they might just be silent, thinking about a problem.
Yeah,
I think that can also be helpful to like see that these ideas don't just come to people instantly.
I agree. I agree. I think like the big thing is it's just all about adding value. If you're adding value, it doesn't matter really the quality of your lighting or the quality of your video or your audio. If you're adding value to the community in any way, people are going to watch it. And
Mhm.
the best video I have on my channel, it's actually a very cringy video of me with like the bald haircut from COVID, the quarantine hairstyle.
Right,
That
right.
and I was just talking about how I study for my CYSA plus from CompTIA, and
Hmm.
we can just talk about that a little bit as well. I my only concern with that video was okay. I just want to show people how I did it and how they also could do it in a very transparent way. So I just put out every resource I used, how much time I spent studying for that cert, my tips for the exam, and that's far from being my best video. It's far from being my best video, but I found that people don't even care about that. People are just
Right.
looking for that, like, you know what I mean? Is this helpful for me? So I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna do those algorithm things like it, comment, and thank this random creator for creating this video. So I think that's something that I need to work on a little bit, like finding ways to add value without wasting too much time worrying about things that don't matter a lot. I don't know.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's also weird because like the things that I find the most interesting are not necessarily like,
The best
the things
produced?
that yeah, the best produced,
Yeah.
or they're not like the biggest topics. Like, of
Okay.
course, a good topic for a video would be like, top 5 certifications
For
for
sure.
cybersecurity or something. But like for me, like I'm not as interested in like those big flashy videos. I'm more interested in like, hey, look at this cool tool that I wrote
Yeah.
and it doesn't really work all the time, but here it is.
Yeah.
Like I find that a lot cooler than, the nice,
Yeah.
well-produced videos.
Yeah.
Um but I think it really just depends on your audience.
Yeah, this is a great topic that we just created on the go about content creation. What is your opinion on entertainment content? Some people create content around cybersecurity, and you can see that their goal is not to teach you how to do a pen test or teach
Mhm.
you any specific methodology or anything like that. They are just making videos about cybersecurity, about hacking, about anything pretty much regarding cybersecurity. But the goal of the video is just to entertain people that are interested in cybersecurity, but they don't want to watch their those like 1.5 hour walkthrough videos through a hack the box machine. You know what I mean?
Right.
What is your opinion on those videos? Those like the Network Chuck videos, the David Bombal videos. I mean, their production is out of the box. It's very cool,
Right.
and I don't think that they necessarily deserve. It's not hate, but some people pretend like, oh, those people are not legit. They are not hackers. They don't work as pen testers and whatever. But I
Right.
really enjoy their videos. Their videos are very fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's like a expectations issue. Like if you're
Yeah,
going to like a video that is meant to be like an entertaining video and you're
yeah,
expecting to come away with, the knowledge of how to,
yeah,
conduct a pen test or something, like of course you're going to be disappointed.
for sure.
But I think for me, like I kind of listen and like watch those things when I'm, walking or doing exercise or
Yeah,
doing the dishes,
yeah,
especially with podcasts like Darknet Diaries.
yeah,
I'll listen to those whenever I go for a drive or whenever I'm out running or whatever the case might be.
yeah,
um, so I think having a good mix of like technical content and like non-technical content
yeah.
is kind of like a good mix.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because I think that for you to make a good entertainment video, it's very hard. It's very hard
Hmm.
because you have to think a lot about so much stuff. And Network Chuck, for example, he just made a video where he's trying to teach Linux to his wife, and that's
Hmm.
hilarious because they have like 5 kids or something, and she's like
Right.
just trying to study for Linux Plus in 24 hours, and then she does the exam, and unfortunately she fails, and the score of the exam is 404. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
And at the end of the video, Network Chuck just says like, "Oh, so Linux not found in your brain" or something like that. Yeah, the video was funny as heck, man. And I don't think that there's nothing wrong about this. And having fun with cybersecurity should be normalized. And I think it's a very nice way to create awareness around the topics for people that don't necessarily want to have a professional relationship with this field. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we are nerds and we like digging into
Yeah.
things and watch those videos where people are like trying to break into something or discovering new stuff about cybersecurity or pen testing or any given new tool. But some people just want to chill out and watch some guy with an anonymous mask talking nonsense
Right.
about an OSINT tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will say I took the Linux Plus exam, and that is a hard exam.
Oh, nice.
That
I
was
don't have that one.
It is.
Wow.
So I'm a huge Linux nerd,
Okay.
and yeah, that exam was a difficult one for me.
Okay.
Mostly because I didn't have like an enterprise Linux experience. I was kind of just running it at home.
Yeah.
And there's very different challenges like running it at home versus
Okay.
doing actual enterprise things. But yeah, I totally agree. I think that there's a very fine balance between a technical content and entertainment content, and I think like a good mix of those is good.
Yeah.
But the issues I have are when you're on the clock and you're looking for like an on the guide reference, and
Oh.
you need like some very quick information,
Yeah.
and then there's not like a good explanation of like the question you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think the more minimal you can make it, the better.
Yeah.
That's why, for example, my blog is very like there's no ads, there's no whatever. It's just kind of like my thoughts on the page.
Yeah. That gets very, very annoying, right? When you're trying to scroll down a blog post or a walkthrough or some Medium write-up or something like that, and there's like 100 ads on the
Yeah,
page
yeah.
and pop-ups everywhere. It's very annoying. Yeah. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you doing that, man, because you're adding value to the community, and I also know that you have a recipe website, right?
Yeah. So
Can you
that
talk a
kinda
little
came
bit
about-
about that?
Yeah, that kind of came about because I think like everyone else, I got really into cooking during
Okay.
like the COVID lockdowns.
For sure.
And I kept going to these recipe websites, and literally this just happened in the store today.
Yeah.
I was looking for, some ingredients for this recipe,
Yeah.
and I pulled up the recipe website on my phone for this like new thing I was trying to make.
Yeah.
And like I literally couldn't scroll to the recipe because like every 2 seconds like an ad was popping up.
Yeah.
And it was like I don't need the, 20-page backstory about like how you grew this vegetable in your garden. Like I just need to know what the vegetable is.
For sure.
So I basically every recipe that like I come up with and I enjoy, I'll like put on this website, and
Yeah.
it's literally just like very, very simple. Here's the steps, here's the
Yeah.
here's the recipe. And it's just become kind of this like side project that's kind of funny because it's so totally random.
But it's great, man. It's very. When I thought about that, that was really funny to me.
Yeah.
Are you still
Yeah, that was-
still adding recipes to the website?
Yes and no. It's
Okay.
one of those things where I'll forget about it and be like,
Okay.
oh yeah, like I have all these recipes that I should add here.
Yeah, but you're totally right. Those websites have too much noise, and
Right,
you
right.
just want to get that necessary information. What are the ingredients? How do you make the dish? And that's it.
Right. Or in like a more like, cybersecurity related note,
Okay.
what is the command that I need to run?
Yeah.
What is,
Oh man,
what
don't
tool do I
tell me
need?
about it. I'm studying for the OSCP, as you probably already know. And man, sometimes you're trying to find something so simple, and you have to dig through a lot of blog posts, and then you find like a comment in the comment section of the blog post, and the guy is just saying you could just wrote this, and it's just one liner for the whole article. It's
Right.
just one line that you need. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's very
Yep.
frustrating, but yeah, it's part of the journey. So I have to embrace it and just accept it how it
Yeah.
is.
I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
Yeah, you're not, definitely. Okay, so now you can talk a little bit about time management. I remember that I did a live stream with DC Cybersec, and you asked me about this, and I
Hmm.
didn't have a good answer, and I don't have it yet. So I want to talk a
Yep.
little bit
Yep.
about that with you, like time management for studying, working, managing life stuff at the same time. How do you go about it? Do you have anything you do? It's random. Go for it.
Yeah. So I've tried like basically every like quote unquote productivity system that there is.
Yeah.
I fell into the rabbit hole of like Googling, productivity system or whatever, and then watching like videos on it. And then I realized like, oh, I just spent an hour learning how to be productive and I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Um, so I've kind of found that the simpler, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely, depending on like what it is, like if it's errands I need to run in real life, I keep a bullet journal, which
Okay.
is basically just a to-do list for each day.
Okay.
um, and that's very simple because I have it on my desk and I can just
Yeah.
write I need to do this and this and then cross it out.
Okay.
um, for bigger projects I like to kind of keep like notes on what I'm working on.
Yeah.
um, but then it also changes depending on, am I working on a certification? Am I working on this class for my degree? Am I working on, whatever it may be? Um, but I think the best like piece of advice, and I don't even remember where I heard it, was to kind of like do things in sprints.
Mm-hmm.
So, this won't work for everyone, but what works well for me is to kind of go and work on something for like a month and like really work on
Okay.
it for like all my free time, and then finish it and then just take a break. Like,
Yeah.
for example, the last certification I got, I went through all the material, 20 hours of lectures in like a week and a half, and then I went through. Uh, the books are somewhere back there. I like went through all the books, like
Yeah.
indexed all the books, and that was a ton of work for those 2 or 3 weeks that it took me to do that.
Yeah.
But now I'm just gonna relax for like the next few weeks until my next class starts. So I think going in sprints is
Good
what
for
really
you,
helps
man.
me.
It helps you
Yeah, but
pace
what about you?
yourself, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, I found out that for me, I'm terrible at what you just said. I do exactly the opposite, and that's very bad for me and for my health as well, because I end up just not getting enough sleep because I don't know what it is, but I always think that future David is going to be like Superman and is going to be able to do everything, you know?
Hmm.
Oh, OSCP, fine, I'll do that in 3 months, no problem at all.
Right.
But then I forget that I have all the other stuff at the same time.
Right.
Let's say if it was only the OSCP, I'm saying OSCP, it's just an example, it could be everything, but
Hmm.
if I only had to worry about the OSCP, even with the full-time job, like let's say after my 8 hours of work, I just sit down in like 2 to 3 hours a day, I would say that 3 months are a very good like time gap for you to manage it, especially if
Hmm.
you already have experience, obviously. Um, but if you're like trying to have and manage a YouTube channel and if you're serious about it and if you're at the same time working on your master thesis and trying to
Hmm.
finish the degree and you have that certification and you have your full-time job and then you have a dog, you have a wife, you have a family, you have friends, things can get very chaotic. And I found that what works for me trying to manage that, and I'm trying to fix this once I finish these tasks. Once I'm done with the OSCP and with the master's degree, I'm going to take some time off, and I'm going to like
Hmm.
focus on my full-time job and the YouTube for a while, because my body is asking for that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So what I found works the best for me, trying to maximize my productivity and trying to be as efficient as I can, is creating systems. And I don't know if you're familiar with that idea, but what I mean by that is Okay, let's say I want to record a video for YouTube. Well, your lights better be set up already. Your microphone, your
Hmm.
camera, your studio, whenever you're or whatever you film the video in, and you better have things ready to do the things you want to do. You don't want to waste.
Right.
Let's say you film on Saturdays. You don't want to waste like 2 hours every Saturday setting up everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that works for everything. If you're studying for your SCP, when you start, you have to open the PDF course book. You have to open the videos tab. You have to connect to the VPN. You have to start your machine clients, the Windows and the Linux one. You have to you have to open your lab report. You have to do a lot of stuff. So I just automated all that stuff. I have everything I need like ready to open. My VPN just connects automatically, and I'm trying to find these little hacks through the process I'm going through um, to make things a little bit efficient, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
Um,
yeah,
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 I kind of
go.
did something very similar with my blog. So every Sunday I'll post like the weekly roundup,
Yeah,
and I found it was taking way too much time to actually, do that. So
yeah.
I basically just automated the entire thing.
Okay,
I just wrote like a Linux script that moves all the files over,
that's
renders the
awesome.
preview, and then opens up a preview, and then I just type like another command and it uploads it.
Yeah,
Um, and that probably saves me an hour every Sunday of moving files and renaming things
yeah,
and stuff like that. But yeah, automating things is a
yeah.
lifesaver. That's for sure.
Another thing that I found to be crucial was you have to find what's the time in the day that you're most productive in, and that's different for everyone.
Hmm.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm not saying that I've become because I didn't, and I'm trying really hard to become a morning person
Hmm.
because I found that I used to tell that I was a night owl. You know that I
Hmm.
was the guy that I work better at 3 a.m. where there's nobody to interrupt and there's no emails, there's no distractions. Um, and I found that I'm really not because
Right.
if I wake up early, those things are still true. There's no
Hmm.
emails, there's no distractions, and I don't know why I have way more energy in the morning. And as the day goes by, let's say after lunch, I'm dead. After lunch,
Hmm.
I'm dead. It doesn't matter what I eat. Maybe if I eat like a very healthy lunch, it's better. But I don't know why. It's maybe my genetics. I don't know. After lunch, I'm always like those from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I'm very very low on productivity, and so I found that after 6 p.m. after I'm done with my full-time job, well, I can still do some things. I can still study. I can still work on some projects, but in the morning it's the time that I can like get so much stuff done. What's that time for you? Do you found it already, or it's like random?
So it depends. I've definitely tried. Actually, January 1st, my like goal was to become a morning person,
For
and
sure.
after like 2 weeks, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I definitely, when I do wake up early and I can get some studying done, I definitely feel like very productive.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like right after dinner, like, come home from work, have dinner,
Yeah.
and, get some like work done, get some research done, do some, work for my degree,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So, but it also changes depending on like what's going on. And one thing that I kind of struggled with when I was in college was I would be like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time every day and study for the first 3 hours of the day.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't working, but I was still trying to like force it to work.
Yeah. That that
Um,
that is not going to work, no.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
being flexible is really like kind of what works best for me.
For sure, for sure. That's great, man. And for me, I think that the most difficult part is going to bed early. It's not waking up early.
Yep.
Going to bed early is very tough because, like, time zones. I'm trying to create content in English and I'm trying to participate in this community, and everything is happening while I'm sleeping. And that's very, very frustrating.
Right. I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, when I wake. Well, I can give you this example. Whenever I publish a YouTube video, my views are very low in the first hours, which is terrible for the algorithm.
Hmm.
Because the first hours are, well, this is hypothetically, of course, but they say that in the first hours is your chance that YouTube algorithm will like push your video through a lot more,
Hmm.
through people's like dashboards on their main page on YouTube.
Right.
And yeah, so for the first hours the views are very low. Then I go to sleep and I wake up and I have like thousands of views
Right.
overnight, and that's very frustrating because people are commenting and I'm not I'm not like there to answer the comments. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, that's hard on me because so I published. I have to stay wake up because if let's say John Hammond shared my video, like I'm going to die if that happens. If and I'm not woke up, I'm going to shoot myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Um, yeah, yeah, there's definitely like a fine line of like, how much time do I spend like kind of nurturing this content I'm making
Yeah,
versus just like, kind of letting it, releasing it and letting it live.
yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine the time zones are uh, very
It's
frustrating to
challenging.
work with.
It's challenging, of course. Well, now we can talk a little bit about certifications, and this is a rabbit hole in itself, right?
Yep, yep.
Early on, you mentioned the CompTIA certifications, and I like CompTIA a lot, and I know that
Hmm.
some people don't, and that's fine. But I think that there's a trend to, I don't know, man. I feel like people that are very experienced and are very well rounded in this field don't see that much value in entry level certifications. And me, as someone who just started, I don't really agree with that because I think that, as you were saying, having something that is able to give you the fundamentals and the like the basic concepts that you need to start on this field is a very positive thing to have. A security
Right.
plus, a network plus. I wouldn't say the A plus, only if you're really like starting out in IT in general. But like
Hmm.
those two certifications, the network plus and the sec plus. I only have one. I only have the security plus, but I have a course on network plus, and I really think that it's essential to have those fundamentals, and you don't need those certifications, of course. But if like your employer is paying for them, why wouldn't you want to do that, right?
Right.
Or if
Yeah.
you have the opportunity, like if you have the money, the money, I'm sorry, if you have the money to spend on those certifications, I don't think that's a bad investment, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the big thing with certifications is they're not a necessary thing that you need in the field.
Absolutely,
But I think having them is better than not having them.
it
Like
helps, right?
especially, yeah, especially if you're just starting out. Like when I first started, I think I got my A plus when I was like 18.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I went for that one was because like I knew I wanted to work with computers, but I didn't
Yeah,
necessarily know what that was going to look like in the future.
yeah,
But I figured, having a background of, knowing what like the basics of, computer hardware and software would be helpful no matter where I work.
yeah.
Um, so I think having that was very helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like, if you can get that experience without necessarily getting a certification, like that's probably even better.
For sure,
Um,
for sure.
but what I really like about certifications is they give you a like a path
Mm-hmm.
to work towards.
Yeah,
Like if I were to tell you, okay, David, learn how to be a pen tester,
yeah,
and there weren't any certifications, like that would be a really hard thing to do.
for sure.
Um, but if I said, okay, get this OSCP certification or whatever the certification may be, it kind of gives you a framework of like what to learn.
Yeah,
Um, so I think they're really helpful for that. But then, there's also like the argument of, um, are they're very expensive.
yeah,
You know, should you be paying money to renew your certifications? Should you, there's that whole side of the argument. And I
for
think
sure.
that, um, depending on what the certification is and what your background is and what you're getting the certification for, I think it can depend.
Yeah, I think it depends on. It also depends on. Are you doing this like to get a job? Does your job requires you to get this specific certification? Because I know that, for example, I talk about John Hammond a lot because I follow him a lot and I know a lot of his background story. And he has a video where he talks about his resume, and he has the CEH there. And some people would argue that you don't really need a CEH certification to be a pen tester, because it's just like 120 multiple choice based questions, and it's not really practical. They now have a practical module, but yeah, that doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that he took that certification because his employer was asking him to have the certification. Maybe he's going to tell people, okay, if you don't need, if that's not a specific request from your employer, don't get this, let's get anything else. That's okay for me. Now, saying that it doesn't have value or it doesn't has any value is a different story for me. You know what I mean? Because it really depends on your reality. It really depends on your needs or the opportunities that might get into your way. In my experience, my employer didn't ask for any certifications for my first experience as a penetration tester. But having those like first certifications, like the Security Plus, like those fundamental certifications, really helped, because they were like, okay, at least this guy knows or is familiar about these concepts, and there's no need to have like 1 hour interview asking what is a subnet, like what is, you know what I mean? I think it helps.
I think the biggest thing about certifications for me are like, if you take a certification and you learn something from it, like that's good.
Yeah.
Like there's no situation in where learning something new isn't like a good thing.
Yeah.
So if you took the CEH or whatever the certification may be and you learn something from it, like that's great.
Yeah.
And if that can help you get your foot in the door somewhere, whereas otherwise you wouldn't have gotten that opportunity, then like that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
And I would say that having a lot of certification companies and a lot of competition nowadays, it's better for us. And I would really like to see these companies working to do just better, trying to improve their courses, trying to update their content, instead of just trying to bash each other. You know what I mean, right? There's a lot of that, and that's very sad to see, because one thing that got me into this community and the reason why I'm still active on it, it's because people are very supportive, generally speaking. And sometimes seeing this kind of behaviors, it's very sad for me, because if you think that things should be a certain way, just do it that way and do it better, and do it better than your competition. You're just going to win from that. People are going to look at what you're doing, and they are going to be like, oh, so this is less expensive. Let's say you have a free retake. The content is more is updated, and it's more relevant, and so we are going to opt for this. And if you just want to get recognition in the field and from the community, it's just a matter of time. I don't think that's really a need to try to bash what other companies are doing or anything like that. That's just my opinion. I'm not a hateful person. I don't like that way of approaching things, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, and I also think that, there's so much like free information out there.
For sure.
And I think one of the most useful things that I've kind of rediscovered recently is you can just learn things from textbooks. Like, for example, like No Starch Press has Humble Bundle deals all the time. And just going through a textbook, you'll learn so much because it's just a very condensed form of information.
That's true.
I think I was kind of like, going through textbooks in college where I was required to go through, a textbook on databases or something.
Yeah.
Like I never wanted to do that because it was not something I was interested in. But reading a textbook on, a technology that you're interested in, as boring as it may sound, is actually can be very interesting.
Yeah, I love reading
so
books.
I think that a lot of people will forget that, there's a whole wealth of knowledge in books.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, I don't know. Certifications are a weird topic. There's so much opinions on that. There's so much to be talked about. What gets me excited to do any certifications, like the challenge and the journey that it guides you through a path, like you said, to reach an end goal. And for me, that's a very smart way to learn. If you, like you said, if you just go out there on the internet and say for yourself, okay, I want to be a pen tester, let's start. It's very overwhelming to just type that on Google and okay, what do I do? What do I select? What's good information? What's not so good information in the sense that it might not be like up to date or something like that. Well, some certifications are also not very updated, but you know what I mean, right?
Right.
If a certification has like a good reputation and if it's recognized from the industry, chances are it has to be like at least somewhat up to date.
Yeah. So my thing is again, like if even if a lot of the information you could get somewhere else, like
Yeah.
if getting a certification will actually get you to learn the material versus like doing it on your own,
Yeah.
then like there's no problem with like getting a certification, even if it's not like the most efficient way
Sure. Yeah.
to learn it. Like
Yeah.
if you have like one path where you go down and you don't take any certifications, but you learn all the stuff on your
Mm-hmm.
own, like that's great. But then if the other path is, taking certifications to learn the same material,
Yeah.
like it doesn't really matter which path you take.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's just a matter of personal choice, to be honest. There's
Hmm.
like gods in information security that don't even have a certification and you don't even know their names.
Right.
I don't think that's really that relevant. I think it's just like a narrative that people created that certifications are this huge deal. I just don't think they're not. I think it's just
Yeah.
like a way for you to learn. And if you don't want to go that route, there's like so many ways to learn things. And the internet is a free world. So just explore it.
Yeah.
And the
And
books, you
also,
just talk about books.
yeah, books. And I think one of the things that I've recently realized is like setting up, like right behind me, I have like this old desktop
Yeah,
that I just had like extra parts.
yeah,
Like setting up a lab and
for
like,
sure.
breaking things in it, you'll learn so much.
That's true as
And
well.
then you'll actually have to fix it, which is
Yeah,
a whole nother way to learn new things. And it's pretty cheap. Like I think I paid for the case because I didn't have a case, but
yeah.
everything else was just extra parts that I had laying around.
You know what I would say? I would say that it's all about being curious. If you're curious about it, you'll find a way to learn. And it doesn't matter
Right.
how it is, you'll find a way to go through it. You want to go through the next topic? I think we can just
Sure.
talk about certifications like hours in
Yeah, yeah, we'll be here
for
for a while.
hours. Yeah. Okay, so do you have any future goals? Like anything you want? I know that you're going to like take a break and rest a little bit and focus on your main stuff, on your priorities. But are you aiming to do something like particular, like a certification, any other thing?
Yeah, so I'm going for my master's through SANS,
Yeah.
which is a pretty like grueling master's degree,
Mm-hmm.
where basically you just take one of their certifications in for a semester, and that's their class.
Okay.
So I just finished the GCIH, which
Mm-hmm.
was super cool, and my next one is the GSTRT, which is like more of a management
Okay.
and policy type thing.
Okay.
So that'll be coming up soon. So definitely like getting through that, the gauntlet of the first like quarter of my master's
Yeah.
is definitely a goal.
Awesome.
In May 3rd through 8th, I think, is Wild West Hacking Fest,
Okay.
and I submitted a presentation talk, and they accepted it. So I'll
Yeah.
be speaking there in person,
Oh
which
man.
will be
Nice.
kind of crazy.
Congratulations, brother. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks.
That's awesome.
It'll be like kind of my first conference that I'm speaking at, so
Wow.
that'll be fun.
Is it going to
And
be like on site?
yep,
Oh,
it's in
nice,
San Diego,
nice,
California.
nice,
So
nice,
so
nice.
yeah, get some public speaking experience.
Now you're going to have the possibility to have speaker on your bio. You see what I?
Right, yeah, which
Yeah.
is intimidating because the only public speaking experience I have is in college. I
Yeah.
basically forced myself to take a public speaking class,
Yeah.
and then within 2 weeks it was canceled because of COVID.
Oh,
Um,
too bad.
so I really tried to get that experience, but
Yeah.
it didn't quite work out because of COVID. But yeah, it should be interesting. I'm super excited because speaking at a conference is
Yeah. Is it
something I've always wanted to do.
is it going to be live or something or recorded?
Yeah, I think so. I think there will be recordings. I'm not
Okay.
100% sure,
I'm sure
but I
people
know
are
there's
going
also
to
virtual tickets.
make sure you write a blog post about that. Like, how did you get prepared? And that's very
Yeah,
interesting. That's very interesting. That's
yeah, I
awesome.
totally wasn't expecting to like be selected because I'm sure a lot of people applied.
Yeah.
So that just means I have to make a really good talk.
For sure. Can you share the topic, or do you want to keep it like until you?
Um,
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if you want to
it
keep it.
will be an interesting topic that is not something you've probably heard of. It has to
Okay.
do with social engineering.
Oh, that's
I'll leave it
awesome.
at that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Um,
Okay. I'm curious about it. I definitely wanna see a record of that. Okay, man, that's awesome. The last thing I want to touch on before we just wrap this thing up is about
mhm,
imposter syndrome. This is a very common topic to talk about, especially in this
mhm,
field. I mean, it should be talked in any field, but in cybersecurity, um, from the first time I knew about, I mean, I have a yellow book over there on my shelf, which is the Cybersecurity Operator Handbook. It's something like that. It has like one-liners and comments. It has like 300
mhm.
pages. Like one of the first pages is about a phone line for anti-suicide for cybersecurity professionals. I
Right.
I didn't even know this was a thing. This existed, and until I started working on this and getting my hands dirty, and especially now producing content, um, I feel like imposter syndrome in this field is a very, very, very serious topic that we should
Mhm.
talk about. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think especially in this field, because there's so many different areas you can specialize in, it's very easy to feel like, oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah,
Like I've been doing this for, this amount of years, and I'm comparing myself to this guy who's been doing it for this amount of years,
yeah,
and he or she probably has, way more experience than me.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's very easy to like kind of compare yourself to people who are also in the field,
yeah,
who are more specialized than you.
yeah,
But I think it's also important to realize that there is definitely a need for people who know a lot about a lot of different kind of like security domains.
yeah,
So being kind of a generalist is also like very important,
for sure.
because you get a good overview of like what the security landscape looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think especially when I first started, it was very overwhelming because there were people who work in technically the same like job that I do,
Yeah,
and I didn't know what they were talking about.
yeah,
Or I would read job descriptions, and it was like, well, I don't have this experience. I can't apply for this job,
yeah,
which isn't true. Job descriptions are usually written by HR, not the people actually hiring you.
that's true.
And of course, they're going to want, they're going to list all this extra stuff that you don't necessarily need.
Yeah,
But I think what really helps me kind of get over that imposter syndrome is just if you look at it as, I'm just going to be learning for the
mm-hmm.
next 10 to 15 years, I think it's much easier to kind of not compare yourself to, someone you see on Twitter or, someone you work with,
Yeah,
because you're kind of just, you're still in that phase where you're getting experience.
yeah,
Which is really helpful, at least for me. I know it probably won't work for everyone,
yeah.
but yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can see, but I have a piano right here. So I've
Hmm.
studied music for a couple of years, and that's very common on the music industry as well. You look at like a kid with 16 years old. He has been playing piano since like he was 3, and he is
Hmm.
like a god. And you look at yourself, and you're like, man, what the hell am I doing with my life? I'm never gonna be that good. Or it's very easy for you to compare yourself with others. But something that people used to say, specifically in that regard, was that in art you can't win. It's impossible to win, because art is not about winning. It's about expressing yourself. It's about personal growth. It's about learning, and I think that mindset should also be applied here to our field. In cybersecurity, it's impossible to win. You're here to learn. You're here to grow. You're here to like go through the journey one step at a time. And for me, in my experience, I didn't face any imposter syndrome when I started working on my full-time job, because I was very open with everyone. When I didn't know about any about a specific topic, or about a specific tool or a methodology or anything like that, I would say and be very transparent and say, okay, I don't understand this. I don't have any experience with this. Can you please teach me? And I would do my
Right.
part to learn it. But after I created the YouTube channel, man, I have like serious anxiety before I press that upload button. Like, let's just say I say anything that's wrong, or anything like that's not correct, or anything technically not the best, or I don't know. I'm really afraid that someday I'm going to make that mistake and somebody will say, oh, this guy is not legit, or this guy is a poser, or this guy is a fraud. And yeah, that really gets to me. I don't know if you get that with your blog or anything like that, but
Yeah.
it's a great exposure, right? You're exposing your face, your name, your personality, and it's very nerve-wracking sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I think I definitely get a lot of that. Not necessarily with, the weekly roundup that
Yeah,
I'm doing, because I'm not like presenting this as, this is like a finished product. I'm more presenting of, here's what I learned. But for
yeah,
like the few research-based blogs that I've done,
yeah,
I think there's definitely been that factor of like, am I getting this right? Like, did I overlook something? Is
yeah,
something like glaring that I just overlooked?
yeah.
I don't know, did I leak my IP address? Did I
Exactly,
do all these
exactly.
did I do all these different things that like, a more experienced person would, kind of look down on me for?
Yeah,
But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like especially if you're, providing some useful information to someone,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if you know, you say the wrong thing or you
yeah,
mispronounce the name of some tool or whatever. Like it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
But it's also a very hard thing to kind of get
yeah.
over.
Well, I try to make fun of myself whenever I misspell something or I do anything wrong. Like the first comment of the video is me saying, "Oh, look what I did here. It's wrong." You know,
Right.
that's my personal way to deal with it, because yeah, humor helps me to get through it. Um,
Yeah.
let me,
Sometimes on
yeah,
my
yeah, go go.
sometimes on my like security blog, I'll be researching something for like 3 hours one day,
Yeah,
and then the next day be like, "Oh yeah, it was just a simple command that like I mistyped. That's why it
yeah.
didn't work," or something super simple like that.
Yeah, I did a walkthrough of a room on TryHackMe, and one concern that I have, and I talked with Ben at TryHackMe. He is like the CEO or the co-founder or something like that, and he
Mhm.
told me, "Hey man, it's awesome that you're doing these walkthroughs, but please try not to disclose like flags or like the answers at the end, or try to be a little bit more meticulous with that." And
Mhm.
and I understand it. It's very silly to try to blur everything. You're not going to blur every IP or every directory name, or you know what I mean.
Right.
But like for the final flag, like the user flag, the root flag, yeah, people should blur those things, because people are just going to copy and paste, and yeah, whatever. So I've spent like 3 hours trying to blur every frame of the video that showed these flags, and it was like,
Right.
and I missed one. I missed one
Mhm.
frame. There's one frame on the video that one guy in the comments found and said, "Oh, we can see it here," and I was like, "Damn it!"
Yeah. Yep.
and it's okay. It's like you said, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. But as long as you're doing your best, you just have to have that in mind. If you're doing your best and you're trying to learn, it doesn't really matter if you do any mistake. But it's hard to deal with it. It's hard. It's easier to
Yeah.
say than done.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been times where I've been like, "Oh, I want to showcase this tool," or, write a blog about this, or, do a short little video on,
Yeah,
whatever the topic may be. And they'll hit record or like start typing like 10 different times and then just delete the whole thing because, I
yeah,
messed up a single command or
yeah,
whatever it may be.
yeah,
And then I just kind of looked back and I was like, I just spent 3 hours trying to do this one thing.
yeah,
When if I was showing you in the room next to me, I could just show you. Like,
yeah,
let me just do it that way, kind of like an over the shoulder type thing,
yeah,
because it doesn't really matter. Um, the every take that you delete is just kind of wasted time. So just do it in one take,
sure.
just knowing that there's going to be errors.
That's very good advice. I'm that guy as well. If you were not here and I was doing this by myself, I would probably record this like 5 times. And I
Yeah.
understand that's a perfect waste of time.
Hmm.
And that's something that I struggle a lot with. But I'm getting better at it. As I said, I'm trying to make fun of my own mistakes. Um, done is better than what is the saying? What is the saying that like if
Um,
if you do it, it's better than having it perfect and not done or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, but you
Um,
know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm trying to do the stuff and uploading it, um, and not worry too much about those things. You know.
yeah. There's always going to be those little errors, no matter like how long you spend trying to,
Yeah, and that's
blur every
life.
single frame.
Yeah, and that's
Yep,
life. That's life. Nothing's perfect.
yep, yep. Totally agree.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you have anything to add or something. We've been talking for 1 hour and 5 minutes, which is close to our goal. We set
Right,
up
right.
for 1 hour. Do you have any advice for people like wanting to get into cybersecurity, like some do's and don'ts that you might add for someone that's interested in this field? Just to
Um,
close things up.
yeah, I think there's a few things. One, what works for me or someone else won't necessarily work for you. Depending on where you're at in your career, if you're just coming out of college versus if you have some experience, where you're located, like all these are going to be different factors
Yeah,
in kind of getting your foot in the door
yeah,
or like starting a job in security. Um, but the biggest thing I would say is don't be afraid to just start on something. Um, when I was first starting out, I was like, well, I really want to get some skills. Should I start with networking? Should I start with, Python? Should I start with,
yeah,
pen testing? All these different things. And I think it doesn't really matter where you start as
yeah,
long as you kind of get those core skills, and also like, document it, like make a blog, join Twitter, start interacting with people. All these things they kind of seem insignificant,
yeah.
but they'll really help you network with people. They'll help you when someone's reviewing your website, be like, oh, this person can, document their thoughts. That's what we need in a pen tester. Let me reach out to them.
Yeah,
So just start somewhere. It doesn't really matter, and interact with the community. I think those are the two like biggest things.
for sure. Anything will lead to something, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, that's right.
that's true, man. Awesome advice, man. I would like to thank you so much for accepting this. You're actually my first guest, and you are a wonderful guest.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for accepting doing this with me. And man, I'm looking forward for round two. So maybe after
Yeah,
your
yeah, me
talk,
too. Just let me know.
maybe after your talk, we can like talk a little bit about it, how it went, and you could share
Yeah,
like some wisdom on how you get prepared for something like that. That would be great. That would be great.
yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It was really fun. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man. My pleasure. Anytime. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys like this podcast, and I hope you got some knowledge and some wisdom nuggets from here. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.